let's look a little bit more at e-commerce and some of the ways that we think about e-commerce. So one of the things to know about when talking about e-commerce is sometimes there is a distinction which is made between .com businesses, DOTCOM, and brick and mortar businesses. And then of course there are hybrid businesses which do both. They both have in the real world presence, a brick and mortar presence, and they also have an online presence, a .com presence. The reason we call it like a .com is because of the top level domain com, right? Commercial, like Amazon.com. So back in the late 90s when the web was brand new and all of these new online businesses were starting, people called it the .com business and or going into a .com business or starting a .com. And so that's just like the online businesses. And then they distinguish that from the businesses which are in the real world where you have a storefront, and that's a brick and mortar business. And there's some businesses which are strictly online plays. They're only online businesses. And so Amazon would be an example of a business which is strictly online. They have no brick and mortar presence. Threadless is another, strictly online business. There's a ton of them, right? But these are just all .com businesses. They're all just online businesses. So Threadless is a shop or a business where you could go and buy interesting T-shirts, and they have artists. If you're an artist, you could submit your art, and you could pick designs, and then if enough people pick a certain design, they will make those T-shirts. So that's .com versus brick and mortar. What are the advantages and disadvantages for businesses and consumers to doing business online versus doing business in the real world? Well, the advantages and disadvantages, you could just think about these and speculate about them on your own. But like textbooks will often list them out, and I always think it's kind of rather obvious and also kind of stupid. But it's also true. It's also true that these advantages and disadvantages that they exist for businesses and consumers. So one of the differences between having just an online business versus in the real world business is in the real world you get to shut your business down at 5 o'clock or 10 o'clock or whenever you shut it down, generally speaking, right? Unless you're Denny's or something like that. But online businesses are 24/7, 365. It's not like they operate with certain hours and then they're closed. They are always online. And so that is both advantageous and disadvantageous depending upon how you look at it. From a consumer standpoint, hey, it is great to always be able to access a business. From a business standpoint, you got to be making sure the thing is running around the clock. And that's not necessarily all that hard, but sometimes depending upon the business, you're going to have to staff people around the clock and things like that. What are other advantages and disadvantages doing an online business versus in the real world business? Well, an online business, you get to access anybody who has, you have access to anybody who has access to the internet. So anybody with internet access is your potential customer if you have an online business. That's a huge advantage. Whereas if you have a business in the real world, right, like, how far am I going to travel to go check out some business in the real world? 10 miles, 20 miles, right? Like my limit for driving to go to a business is, it's limited. But online, all it takes is a little bit more typing and I could get there. And another difference between online businesses and real world businesses is that, like, if I'm a consumer and I buy something online, it's kind of harder often to return it versus if it's in the real world business, a brick and mortar business, I could drive back down and I could talk to the people. I could be like, look, this didn't work for me. And so, I have that human interaction, and that's, that to me, the human interaction is advantageous. So returning things at Amazon, I found that it's really hard to return things at Amazon, but not so hard to return things at Costco and Target. Kind of hard to return things at Target, especially if it's over $70. Just recently tried to return a wagon, and it took like an hour. It's ridiculous. All right, so those are just some of the advantages and disadvantages of, brick and mortar businesses versus .com businesses. .com businesses, and brick and mortar businesses all have to contend with much increased competition and price competition, right? Because it's really easy for us to purchase from Amazon or from anybody now. So it's a pretty price competitive marketplace these days. And, do I want to get a Target in the real world, or do I want to buy some store online? And when you shop for stuff in the real world, you could use an app like Red Laser, which I've mentioned before, which runs on your iPhone, and and then you just scan whatever it is you're thinking of buying. You scan the barcode, and it tells you where else you could buy it and for how much, whether in the real world or online. So it's a very price competitive marketplace now. So some of the different categories we have for businesses would be like B2C or B2B. So these are just categories like business to consumer. Like, okay, I'm going to go into the business to consumer arena where I am a business and I'm selling to consumers. That's the B2C arena. And that would be like Amazon, right? Like we're a business, we're selling to consumers. Or it could also be like Redbox, or it could also be like Threadless, right? Business selling to consumers. And then there's also the business selling to business arena. And so the business selling to business arena could be like Salesforce.com, right? They're selling software to help you manage your Salesforce. So that would be a B2B arena. Or, like Office Max, right? Does B2C and B2B. They have an area where they focus just on selling to businesses. And so that'd be a B2B play. And brokerage sites, right, is another category of online businesses. And a brokerage site would be like either consumer to consumer or business to business, or business to consumer or consumer to business, right? But basically, what a brokerage site is a organization, a business, an online business model that tries to bring together buyers and sellers, and then the brokerage site will take a cut of the transaction between the buyer and the seller. So eBay is a classic brokerage site where, I got some crap I want to sell. Somebody wants to buy this crap, right? I sell it on eBay. eBay takes a certain slice of the sale, a certain percentage of the sale, and I ship my crap to somebody else, and they send me money. So that's a brokerage, classic brokerage site. Consumer to consumer. Udemy is another one where you could sell teachings, right? And Udemy takes a cut, and so it's a brokerage site. Kickstarter also, right? I could do crowd fundraising, and then Kickstarter takes a cut of the money I've raised. So those are brokerage sites. Then there are advertising sites. So advertising sites are sites that try to get users to come to the site, and then they place ads on the site. So Facebook and Google both derive significant amounts of their revenue from having ads run on their site. And we're going to see here in a little bit, Google AdWords, we'll be able to look at some of the prices on the ads, but that's an advertising kind of business model. And then there are subscription sites, right, where we offer content that we think people are interested in so much they'll pay us for it, and so we just have people pay us to have access to our content, and that'd be a subscription site. So a reoccurring revenue model like the New York Times or Lynda.com or Netflix, right? So yeah, subscription site. And the cool thing about that is the reoccurring revenue. So once I get a customer, right, I'm making a certain amount of money from that customer every month. So for instance, like, if I had 1 million customers paying me $2 a month, that's $2 million a month. That's like, wow, awesome. So what can I offer the world where I could sign up 100,000 or 1 million people and get them to pay me $2 a month? That'd be a subscription site. All right, so those are some of the categories of doing online business, of e-commerce, and some of the ways we think about the different businesses and categorize them, and some of the advantages and disadvantages. And that's my dog barking in the background. And that's .com and brick and mortar, and the difference between those two. Yeehaw!